Amen, everyone. And thank you again for rendering those songs. And today is a beautiful day. We praise God. Today is the 25th day of May 2026. And today we are going to be having a great time, even as we continue in our study of the word and also the reflections that we have been doing. And reflection has been on lessons for rebuilders. You and I, we are rebuilders, and we're just learning the lessons. We are going through the reflections. We are going through the meditations of the things that we have learned, and we are going through themes, various themes. Today, our theme will be taken from the book of Malachi, and chapter 3, verse 16 to 18. Malachi chapter 3, verse 16 to 18. And today we also encourage you, as the rest of the scriptures we've been looking at has been very, very encouraging. And our theme for today is God remembers. God remembers. And you see, how God remembers, who God remembers, and why we need to be thankful that our God indeed remembers. I'm going to go ahead and read just three verses we're going to be looking at today and be reflecting on those things. And it's something you guys have heard as we're going through the course of these lessons. So in that place in Malachi, remember all the rebukes in Malachi and everything to just get back on track. If you have loved me, you will have done this. You brought me, sick animal, weak animal, diseased animal, lame animal, all kinds of animal. Then God now in chapter 3, in verse 16, the tone cannot change. He said, then those who feared the Lord talked with each other. Those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence, in God's presence. That scroll was written concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. Okay? A scroll of remembrance was written in God's presence concerning those who, one, they feared the Lord, and two, they honored his name. On the day when I act, says the Lord Almighty, they will be my treasured possession. In other words, God said, yeah, I'm going to do a lot of things. I'm in my anger, I'm going to do a lot of, but these people, these few people, this remnant, these small people, the Bible says, on the day that I act, this will be my treasured possession. I will spare them. Okay, none of those bad things I promised to do will affect these people. Just as a father had compassion and spared his son who he loved, and you will again see the distinction between the righteous and the wicked, between those who serve God and those who do not. So you see everywhere in the Bible, there's always a remnant. There's always a remnant. In the time of Noah and his family, they were the remnants. Abraham was a remnant. Jacob was a remnant, and on and on and on. Okay. In the time of Elijah thought he was the only one. You know how we think, oh man, the whole world is gone. I'm the only one. But there are other people too, just like you. And God said, I'm going to spare all those people. So as we near this, what I would call maybe the grand finale, and then I keep using that word, and we don't seem to be finishing, but we'll finish really. But we are nearing the grand finale, and I promise you, grand finale is tomorrow. As we near this our grand finale of what I would call a very profound reflection series. This is a very unique one. Again, I want to thank our brother, Shola, for having this idea of, after finishing this book, we go back and start doing some deeper reflection. So today we're going to turn our attention to this Monday. This is our final Monday in this series. We're going to be turning our attention as we move from what we've been doing, like yesterday, for this poetic warning, or even the Malachi, we started poetic warning, prepared yourself. This one, we're going to now move to what I call a very beautiful, very intimate disclosure. We're going to see how heaven will record devotion. And even as I think about this, And I know that all over the place, there are a lot of disciples who are pulling their weights, a lot of disciples who are trying to do their best. And my hope and desire is this community that we have, this early morning community, we have people who are also doing it. And I know that we have people who will be a remnant that will say, okay, let me try and do my best. Because we know that every true builder, no matter who you are, you have felt overlooked. Sometimes you're trying to do things, you feel overlooked. Sometimes you feel forgotten. Sometimes you even feel exhausted. But just by the demand of the integrity or the demand of the intensity of the needs that that sits around you. I remember even for me, last week when I was trying to juggle so many balls, I got a call from a brother who said, "Oh, can you please come and help out a couple, that that's not doing too well?" And in fact, they were with them. The guy put it on speakerphone and said, I want them to hear that I'm talking to you. And I said, I would have loved to, but I just got a couple that I am also, that they are going through some challenging things that I'm just jumping into. I said, okay, can you get this other person, to do it? Sometimes it can be overwhelming too. There are things to do. You're trying to help out here. You're trying to help out there. It's just so much. In the next few hours, by 10, I'm going to be having a meeting with one of the elders. We're talking about the young Christians. I have this 2-year program that I've planned out on how we can train the young Christians. Later in the week, we're going to have national leadership group meeting. There are just so many things just to help. And sometimes it can get very overwhelming. But we need to trust that God knows everything. One of the prayers that I really, really enjoy hearing in the past, in recent times, is that God will never forget all your hard work. He will never go unremembered. God remembers everything. So this thing is God remembers. Even when you think nobody's seeing what you're doing, yes, but God himself, he sees, and God writes a record down. So let us look at the secret archives of God, the secret archives of a king. This is the one that people don't know. I know that when you come to the New Testament, you hear things like the book of life. Now, in the Old Testament, we call it a scroll of remembrance for those who are faithful. So historically, let's go back to where these people were. Historically, even as this verse 16, 17, 18 unfolds, it was actually unfolding in a climate of severe social cynicism, where people were like, the things that they said, does God know anything? Does God see everything? It's like being in Nigeria. When you see so much evil happening, it's like, is there any God? So that can drive people to question the existence of God. If God is here, why is this happening? If God is there, why is this happening? So the general populace around the people, they have looked at economic inflation, just like we too are looking at very incredible economic inflation. They looked at political oppression under Persian rule. A lot of Nigerians today are politically oppressed. And of course, we will not look at the apparent, prosperity of the arrogant. It's like, for you to be prosperous, you have to be arrogant. You have to break all the rules. In those days, when I was growing up, when we think about people who are rich, it's a stereotype. When you think about rich, you think about engineers, you think about lawyers, you think about doctors. Those are the rich people. I mean, like, those are naturally rich people. We have our parents and grandparents will go to UK to go and study medicine, engineering, law, and they will come back. Okay, they will come back to now go and work in the civil service. And that's what they do. And those who now venture to go to private sector are very rich. I remember a man called Hector Showolu. I don't know if some of you, that name, rings any bell. Hector Showolu, an engineer. And he's one that designed the Lagos sewage system, the Lagos, canal system, when they came back from UK. That's actually the father of our brother, Showolu. So a lot of people want to come back. People like Ojukwu, who went to abroad, went to UK, can you imagine going to Oxford University, coming back to go for civil service? The father said, no, you're not going to do that. Then you have to go and join the army. So Those were the days. But right now, when you think of people who are rich, there's only one, it's not even a profession, it became a profession, only one cadre, and that's politicians. Politicians were not considered rich in those days, but politicians are very rich. So if you look at that, the population right now, the apparent prosperity of the arrogance, for you to be prosperous, you have to be arrogant, and those people don't think about God, but you are now compelled to serve God completely. So people will think that, serving God is just very useless. If you can't beat them, just join them. There are a lot of people today who are striving. I spent a lot of time in the past 1 or 2 weeks at the general hospital in Lagos because I had a relative that is sick that will have to be taken, whatever. And I said, wow, these doctors, if they were outside the country, do you know how much they will be making? So if some of them who are there, they augment by having their private practice. That's why you go to general hospital and the doctor will give you an option of, if you want it done sharp, where you come to a private hospital, which is its own hospital, and that's why those people are like gods over there. They cannot fire them because they are the people who have agreed to stay. So people, they openly complain. Look at what they were talking about. At a point they were complaining, he said, serving God is futile. It is futile to serve God. What did we gain by carrying out all these requirements? And that is what it seems. Remember that, that portion in the book of, I think it was Psalm 72, when that guy was lamenting, when they were lamenting, the writer of that psalm, he said, how did he even say it? He said, God is good to Israel, to those who are pure-hearted. He said, that's what they say. That's what he meant. He said, but for me, my feet has almost slipped. My feet, because Bible says he began to envy the prosperity of the arrogant. He said, me, it's like all day long, I've been covered with shame. I've been going through whatever. But look at this, look at the arrogance. Their body is smooth. They don't have any problem. That's what you think. Because when you are suffering, that's what you think. So however, amidst this wave that they were going through of cultural skepticism, people didn't really care. A small but very quiet encounter, what was going on. A movement was emerging. There were people who were still thinking about God. There were people who were still talking about God. There were people who were still trying their best. So that is the remnant that we're talking about. So this remnant of people, the Bible says there are people who fear the Lord. They gather together to converse. And I believe that us here, we are part of those people who fear God. And there are so many people, that way, who fear God, who are not allowing themselves to compromise because of what Nigeria is going through, because of what they have seen, because of what people are saying. That is what my joy is this morning, even looking at this. And I want you to believe that you are part of that place. So these people did not gather to complain. Rather, they gathered to encourage one another's faith. And that is why, that is what I do. Each time I come here, I'm thinking about how can I encourage people here? I mean, for the fact that you are even here, you are sacrificing to be here. But how can I encourage you? How can I help you? That by the time you leave here, you are going to be pumped up to want to continue doing that which you are doing. So Malachi began to peel away what you call, it's like a layer. We don't see what's inside. He began to peel back the curtain of heaven, like let us see what is going on, and it began to show all the supreme court of heaven, just like we saw in Revelation. Also, you now begin to see there's a small gathering of people that God is paying attention to. So God did not just listen passively. You know how in coaching we say you listen actively. When I'm coaching, I'm listening with my eyes, my ear, my body, my movement, everything. In fact, I'm mirroring the person who I am, that's there before me. So God paid attention and God heard it. And and God, commanded his royal, let me look at an accounting word. You look at a ledger. Okay, ledger. I don't think they still use some of those words. And so God commanded the ledger. That is the book. They call it, book or the record keeper that is there, or want to call it the register, bring the register, or bring the archives, or bring a journal, whatever you want to call it. But in Hebrew, they will call it a sefer. That's what they call it. So it's the book of remembrance. Bring that book of remembrance, and be written. Let's look at their name. Let's look at what they are doing. So God had to put a directive. Let me write something concerning these people. And today I want to believe that God is writing something beautiful about you. You just have to believe it. It's just, Bible says, without faith, you cannot please God. Okay, that everybody who comes to God must first know that He exists, and there is a rewarder of everybody who earnestly seek Him. I mean, I'm using my own words now. The reward of anybody who earnestly seek Him. So God is writing a ledger for you. He's putting down things for for you. God is giving a directive that things should be written in His presence. Why I'm here, write these things about this. So some of the things that you need to know. Number one, God honors those who fear Him. Okay, now that fear is not the fear of terror. Okay, it's not the fear of, oh, God's going to punish me. How do we know that? Because the book of, I think it was First, 2nd John says that, perfect love drives away fear. That kind of fear we're talking about. That fear is that you stand in awe of God. In fact, there's a song we sing, standing in awe. People who stand in awe. When we sing that song, everywhere umbami, that everywhere umbami, it's not the fear you have towards a destroyer that is coming to you, but it's a fear you have towards somebody you respect. So that's the honor. So a better word is to say, I'm in awe. I stand in awe of you. So God honors those who fear Him. And that's why we say the fear of the Lord, beginning of wisdom, not fear of terror, but the honor, people who honor God. So the foundational truth of this text that we just read, that number one, that your reverence of God, all of us here, your reverence of God is never lost in the noise of any cynical thing, of any whatever. God hears. In the midst of people who are disrespectful of God, in the midst of people who don't want to believe in God, God hears the silent reverence that each and every one of us have. So when you choose integrity, every time you choose integrity over cutting corners, people are cutting corners, but you're telling yourself, but me, I'm going to choose integrity. In your career, in your marriage, in whatever you're doing, whenever you choose purity, you choose purity over cultural compromise, where people are doing whatever they want to do. Whenever you choose honor, to honor God, when it's socially unpopular, guess what? Heaven is taking notes. Okay, God is taking notes of every time you do that. Every time you choose integrity, every time you choose purity, every time you choose honor, you don't want to compromise. God is keeping record of those things. Now, it might not be popular in the world. People who lie might be hailed. People who cheat, but every time you choose to do that which is right, God actually honors you. God writes it down. God takes notice of what you are doing. So God doesn't just remember your actions, the things you do. God registers, your identity. God said, this person's name, write it down. That is this person. He registers your identity. God said, I can relate with this person. I like this person. I trust this person. So this text we just right now, it explicitly, there's no theology that I can explain. There's no, when you read it, it speaks for itself. It states that the ledger, that book, was written for those who fear the Lord and who esteem His name, who honor His name. That is it. So if you fear God, if you honor God's name, guess what? God is telling His angels, oh yeah, write that guy's name down. That is it. So God values your internal awe of Him. He values it, so highly, that He preserves it in an eternal record. There's some things you record down. There's some things you remember. You remember your birthday, right? You remember the birthday of people you love. In fact, yesterday morning, that was when it dawned on me. Yesterday was 24th of May, 2026. Exactly yesterday, same Sunday, 34 years ago, I was baptized. So things like that you don't forget this easily. Things like that you engrave it in your mind. So God puts you in an eternal record Why do that? Because he wants to ensure that your quiet faithfulness is going to outlast anything that is loud right now. Any temporary success of weakness that you might have right now, it's not going to be, but your quiet faithfulness is going to be that. So I want you to be encouraged, and I want you to affirm that when you read a scripture like this and you begin to understand it, you need to make a resolve. For me and you, I believe, I have resolved to live my life in deep, unshakable reverence for God. Completely. I'm assured. You have to be assured that God sees your heart. He sees what's going on. God records your integrity, and God will publicly honor your faithfulness. Okay? He records what is going on in your heart. He records those integrity, and God is going to, publicly, he's going to honor you. Remember what Jesus Christ said? He said, those who honor me, I'm going to honor you. Okay? If you deny me, I will deny you. But if you honor me, I'm going to honor you before the heavens. So that is what is happening. So that should encourage you. That the world might not be singing your praise, the world might not be appreciating what you are doing, but the host of heaven, they are keeping record. So God honors people who fear him. Number two, you need to know from that passage, especially from verse 17. I'm doing 16, 17, 18. From verse 17, then the identity of the Bible says you're going to be my treasured possession. Let's call you jewels. Okay, you need to know your identity. You are a jewel. You are God's royal treasure. Now, I'm not, making this up. I'm not making this up. That's actually what that passage reads. If you have any understanding of Hebrew language, that's what it says here. So in this place, the Lord of heaven, the King of heaven, he delivers what I would say very stunning declaration of ownership. He owns you. And this is what he said. He said, they will be my treasured possession. These people will be my. Now, another place that word was used was when David was given to the building of the temple. That word is shigula, something like that. Shigula. So the Hebrew word shigula, what it refers to is the king's private collection. Okay, the king's private prized possession, his personal treasure. Like David, I give it for my personal treasury. This is my own. It's not the when if somebody comes, right now, so I'm giving this thing. Let's say politician. Okay, let me do a politician. A politician builds a road. People are clapping. Of course, I mean, why are you clapping? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Is more money. But when somebody now brings out, this is my own. I'm using my salary. This is my own one, not the one they paid me, whatever. This is one I made for myself to come and do road. Then he deserves clapping. So that word, God is saying, you are his own personal treasury. The same word that David used when he was saying, I'm giving for my own personal treasury to you. My God, you are God's personal wealth. And that wealth is uniquely set apart for the general treasury. It's not general treasury. This one is special. So this completely now redefine the words of a rebuilder. So you are a rebuilder. How does God see you? The world may treat you like an exile, like they were treating the Israelites. They were, these are just exiles. They're just coming back. The world might treat you as a struggling consultant, where you work. And some consultants are struggling. I'm starting a business. I'm starting a business. And at this stage, I'm struggling. Like we are trying to make ends meet. We are doing those things. We have to work extra hard. People who have arrived, the big consultants, they are just swimming. They already have clients. But people like, we are just trying to get clients, one client, two clients, to just like that. Or people might look at you as a small remnant. What can he do? He's so weak. You are working on reels. People are working on, they're already established. Where I know I got to meet the owner of Philips Consulting. I was at a breakfast. I was invited to a breakfast fire chat about a few weeks ago, about a month ago, where we addressed. We had a fire chat with the head of civil service of Nigeria. That woman is powerful. And a very friendly woman also, and it was organized by Philips Consulting. So you can imagine a lot of consultants are there. Philips Consulting is set apart. This is one Nigerian, indigenous Nigerian consulting firm. I mean, those guys are big. They talk with the cream la cream. So you can imagine small consultants like us. Then other big consultant, we have MDs of companies, everybody was there and every single thing. But look, when someone like Mr. Phillips, walks in there, it's a different ballgame. When someone like the head of HR, the head of what they call it, civil service in Nigeria, when she walks in there, people, we stood up. So people might treat you as a small room. People like that, when you beg to collect their card, when they give you your card, they were like, "Whoa!" And I did get, get the card of the head of civil service. How I got it is another, the story. But the King of Kings, before the King of Kings, you are a prized jewel. You are a prized, possession. And so before the world, you might be an underdog. But before the King of Kings, God said, "You are my prize jewel." So, and God promises to spare his faithful. He said, when I come to do what I said I'm going to do, I'm going to spare you guys. He's going to spare his faithful one. Just as, how do you do? He said, just as a father spares the son whom that serves him. God said, "I'm going to treat you well. Don't worry. I'm going to treat you well." So it is anchoring our security on his deep fatherly affection. God said, "The way I'm going to treat you, I'm going to treat you as a father would treat his son." Or let me make it, gender friendly. As a father would treat his daughter also. And, we are all sons and daughters of God. So I want you to think about that. And I want you to take that verse 17. I want you to make it yours. Anchor your faith on that verse 17. And as you anchor that, resolve today, just like I have resolved, to walk in high spiritual self-worth. So when you walk, that song that we sing, Omo Baba Lenishe, I am Baba's son. Nípa ìgbàgbọ́ nínú Jésù, ṣebí bàbá mi ló ní ilẹ̀ o, kí máa yan fara. So the way you walk will differ from the way everybody walks. Because you are going to walk knowing that you are not overlooked servants. You are not one overlooked servant, but you are a prized jewel and a treasured possession of the Most High God. That changes the way you carry yourself. How we say that he that is in me, greater he that is in the world. You don't just say those things. You believe it. You begin to live it out, because that is how God sees you. God says, when I bring calamity, when I bring all those things, I'm going to spare you. Finally, in verse 18 of that book, you're going to see the ultimate distinction. God said, I'm going to do this. When I do this, there will be a distinction. People will know between the righteous and the unrighteous. So that is the validation of that ledger, of that book. God concludes that passage. He began to now address, let's say, the confusion of skepticism. There was somebody that was telling me something, one day. We're talking about integrity. And I'm very high on integrity, very, very high. In fact, dangerously high, on integrity. And the person said, that is the, how did he say? He said, that will be the new currency, the currency of the new dispensation. He said, when people, they say, don't worry about what people are doing. He said, keep doing what you're doing. He said, the day they are looking for people with integrity, they will come for you. People with lack of integrity might be seen to be getting ahead, but their time is limited. Their time is short. When they have used up their energy and they now need the real people of integrity, they are going to come for you. They are going to say, if you need somebody that is going to do this job and do it well, go after, Emmanuel. And I've had those things. I've had those wonderful privileges, really, where people, refer. People are referred to me, that if you need this thing done, go to Emmanuel. In fact, I remember the very earliest one I heard some years ago. I do a lot of what I call volunteering for Land Olushola. People actually think I work for him. Many people thought I don't work for him. I've never earned a couple from him before, but it's a good guy. He trained me, and I volunteered a lot of things for him. So there was one day, his secretary, I think I've shared that is his PA, call me up, and he says, "Oh, that there's something they want to do. They've been trying to find it very hard." I said, "Okay, just give me some time." And I went, pam, I wrote this thing out. I figured it out, and I sent back to her. I said, "This is how I'm going to do it." Then she now came back and gave me a screenshot of what Dr. Larishola has said before. He said, have you shown it to Emmanuel? Say, if Emmanuel cannot do it, then it cannot be done. That's what Larishola said. Say, if Emmanuel cannot do it, then it cannot be done. So she actually showed me the text. That's why he came to me. And that encouraged me so much. That encouraged me so much. So this passage addresses people who are in this quagmire of the world. He said, and you will again see the distinction. When I do what I promise to do, you will again see distinction between the righteous and the wicked. We're going to see distinction between those who serve God and those who do not. We're going to see a distinction by those who lie and those who have integrity. We're going to see a distinction by those who want to do what is right and those who have been swimming in doing the things that are wrong. I know, some time ago, I was going to get a consulting job that will have, some good money was there in euros, okay? But that required me, there was something they were going to do. Oh, let us cut the amount and do this one. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, if I cut this amount for the job and give you to go and do what you want to do, then what am I going to do the job? That means you are going to leave me to do a shoddy job. And when I do a shoddy job, you cannot come for me because you work for the company. You cannot come for me because you are the one that is taking, you want to take at least half of the money. I said, I'm not going to do that job. But this is what I promise you. If you allow me to do that job, from my profits, I may be able to give a donation, but I'm not going to cut whatever. And I made it, and I went ahead to say, that is why we have so many potholes in brand new roads. Because that contract has been given to somebody, who gave to somebody, and they collect so much money, and the money remaining there is so small. And that's why when those things break down, when bridges break down, nobody is prosecuted. How can you prosecute when you are the one that is doing that? And they didn't come back to me anymore. This is a job where proposals have been sent, it has been approved, every single thing, but I will not do what is wrong because it goes against my conscience. So right now, the lines may look blurry for some of you. Right now, it may seem as if, those who compromise are those who are winning in the economy, in the social race that we hear. It's like those who compromise, those who lie, those who divert the money, but God is declaring to all of us today, and that is in his ledger, they are written down, and God says, I'm writing it down, so that you can, like they say, verify. Okay, it is written down so that you can verify. A day of ultimate distinction is going to arrive. A day of ultimate decision is coming on all of us, on our country, on our state, on our business ventures that we're doing it, even in our church. A decision is going to come where the harvest of the righteous will be completely undenied. God will not deny you. I mean, you know how people cut corner, and maybe you want to get a contract, they give it to somebody. I have a family member who was promised lecturership job. He made the best result, PhD, every single thing, and he even he had to forgo even the prize money. He said, "I won't collect from the school. Let them keep that one. I just want to get this lecturership job." End of the day, went to give somebody who was less qualified. And he was told, because of your state of origin. So we live in a country where religion, where tribe, where your state trumps professionalism, trumps, what's the word I'm looking for? It trumps excellence. You can remember, even in your state, look at your state. Can you imagine that Muritala guy, that Muri guy coming and said, oh, they have to have a Muslim, governor, as if the Muslim governor has done everything to you. Or people in Lagos say, oh, they want to have a Muslim governor too. The last governor, was a Christian. The one before him was a Christian. Ambode was a Christian. Sanwo-Olu is a Christian. What has that done to Christianity? All right, so we live in a community where you are going to lose things. Our son, his best admission that he could have gotten to school, he didn't get it because of state of origin, that you come from an educationally advantaged state. So that might be, but God is going to trump every single thing there. So the day of distinction is going to come. That day is going to arrive. When the Bible says the harvest of the righteous people, harvest of righteousness is going to completely be undenied. People will not deny you anymore. Excellence will follow you. If you've done what is right, you are going to be rewarded for your integrity. You are going to be rewarded for your excellence. You will not be denied forever. So your labor in the Lord will never be in vain. That is what the Bible said. And so that book, that ledger that God writes it down, that book ensures the dividend of your devotion, that dividend will be paid out in time. Okay, that dividend is going to pay back in time, and it's going to create a very beautiful gap. When your dividend is paid, there's going to be a beautiful gap between those who truly serve God and those who do not. Sometimes maybe you deserve a promotion and you are overlooked and you're given to somebody. Maybe you deserve an appointment and you're overlooked and given to somebody. Maybe you deserve, let's say, a reward, an award, a title, I don't know, whatever, and you have been overlooked. God is saying you are not going to be overlooked forever. It's not possible, because God's own book will trump anybody, will trump anything that anybody will. There's going to be a time that nobody can overlook you anymore. It's going to be very obvious. Even when people were like, can't you see that this person, this woman is a person who deserves this promotion, who deserves it, whatever. And we see it happening everywhere. So today, I want you to take that for yourself. I want you to believe it, because that's why Christianity is by faith. You have to believe. The Bible says that the faith is being sure of what you are hoping for. Faith is the certainty of what you do not see. So what are you hoping for right now? What is that you're not seeing right now? I want you to hold on to it. The Bible says when we pray, you should believe that you've already received it. And that's why when you go away, you just be thanking God. You're not repeating it again. That will be called babbling. That will be called just empty repetition. Just say, God, thank you for what you have given to me. It's not here yet, but I believe that you're giving it to me. So I want you to resolve today. Resolve to hold steady in your spiritual duties. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you are confident that God is establishing an undeniable, what we read, public distinction in your favor because of your service to Him. God will reward everything that you do, everything that is unnoticed now, everything that people just walk by. God is going to record everything. So the call to action for all of us today is that be like God, and this will really help you. I want all of us today to write down one testimony of God's faithfulness in your life. Okay, just like God is writing down a testimony, writing down your faithfulness. Also be like God. Say, me too. I'm going to write down what God is doing. God writing down what you are doing because of His name. You too write down what God is doing because of His name also. Just as God has a book of remembrance in heaven, it is time to create your own on earth. So today, take a pen, pencil, whatever you use on your laptop. You might even send a WhatsApp message to yourself, which you can do now. Send a WhatsApp message, write on paper, and explicitly write down one specific breakthrough. May I have too many? Write down one specific breakthrough, one answered prayer, one instance of supernatural protection from the past, what God has done to you. You know how they say, what the Lord has done for me, I cannot tell it all. Write down at least one. And I want you to read it aloud, the way they will read out a pronouncement. Read it aloud. And thank God for it, and let it be able to anchor your faith for the future. The God that did yesterday is the one that's going to do today. The one that's going to do. God, you did this one, and it was clearly you that did that one. Anchor your faith and say, the God who did this one can do more. So that is where we want to stop. We have just 8 minutes. Let's see if we can share your own reflection, and then we see how many little time, how many minutes that we have, for prayer. Let me go to the chat and see what's going on at the chat. So